Alright, so in this video, we are going to talk about solving linear equations. So this is one of your summer mastery topics that you'll be quizzed on in the fall. So I'm going to go through 3 different types of examples that you may see on the test or quiz when you come back in the fall. So if you're stuck on those questions, this is a good resource to watch. So example 1, there's no fractions, no decimals, so I can go ahead and just start with it. Now, as soon as you see a number outside of a parentheses, that means you should be distributing it in. So only, though, distributing it to whatever's in parentheses. So I need 3 needs to distribute in here, and there, and then we go. Alright, so 2. There's a 1 here, so I got 2 times 1 is 2x. 2 times positive 1 is positive 2. And then the 4 just comes on down. 3, again, there's a 1 there, so 3 times 1 is 3. X, 3 times negative 2 gives me negative 6. Now, at this point, I need to start thinking, do I have any like terms? Well, on this side, I have positive 2 and positive 4. So I can combine that down to be 2x plus 6. Well, there's no like terms on the right side, so I'm just going to bring down the right side. Here is where now there's no more like terms on the same side, but I need to solve for x. But I'm a little confused because x is on both sides. Well, the way you kind of tackle this is you have to figure out which x is greater, 3 or 2. Well, 3 is greater, so I'm going to keep that one there, which means I need to get rid of this 6 by doing the opposite. So I do that, that goes away. Add 6 over here, well, 2x, and then that's going to be plus 12. Equals, well, 3x is still over there. Now again, I want to keep the 3x where it is, so I have to figure out how can I move away this 2x. Well, it's positive, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. Remember, again, anything you do to 1, you do to the other side. So that leaves me with 12 equals, well, 3 minus 2 is just x. Well, I've got x equals, so I'm done with that problem. If there were like a 3 here, I'd have to divide both sides by a 3. That would then give you your answer. But since x was alone, I'm done. Now, one thing that's worth pointing out here is if you take this answer and substitute it back in, then you can check it. So check by substituting into original equation. So if you substitute it into that original equation, again, replacing here with a 12 and replacing here with a 12, you should get the same number equal to the same number. And then that would check your solution. Alright, example 2. The only thing that changes here is that we have fractions. So fractions. And a lot of times, we freak out when we see fractions. So we need to figure out what we can do. Well, fractions have something called a lowest common denominator. Or you may have heard this called as an LCD. So what does that mean? Well, that means the lowest number that the fractions share. So if I'm looking at 1/4 and 1/2. I'm looking at the denominator, so that's the bottom part. So I'm looking at 4 and 2, and I want to know what the lowest number they share is. But it has to be restricted by the highest one that is there. So we have 4. Well, 2 goes into 4, and 4 goes into 4. So the LCD of this problem is 4. If you had like 8 and 6, sometimes the lowest common denominator is, like, for that is 24, because that's the lowest number that those two share. That's a multiple. So anytime you see fractions, you want to find that so that you can get rid of all the fractions by multiplying. So I'm going to multiply this equation by 4 to get rid of the fractions, which means I distribute a 4 here, I distribute a 4 here, I distribute a 4 here, but I don't do it to the parentheses because that 1/2 already belongs to that parenthesis. So now if I multiply that 4 and I have 4 over 4x plus 4 times 5 is 20 equals 4 times 1 over 2. And again, that x minus 6 just comes down because the 4 halves belongs to it. Well, this is really just 1x, so I'm going to do x plus 20 equals 4 divided by 2 is 2, x minus 6. Well, now we have a problem that's just like the last one. We need to distribute first. So I get 2x minus 12, and nothing was distributed over here, so then I'm good there. I have x's on both sides, and I have numbers on both sides. Again, 2x is higher, so I'm going to get rid of the 12. So plus 12. So now I have x plus 32 equals 2x. And now, again, I just need to get rid of this last x here. So minus x, minus x. I'm going to move this on over. Well, that goes away, so I have 32 equals x. Or if you like to see it the other way around, that's fine too. X equals 32. Alright, and then the third example that we have, which I kind of started going into, is decimals. If there are decimals, you want to multiply to get rid of them. So multiply by 10, 100, maybe even 1,000. And that is determined, so this is determined by the number of decimal places to the right. And then that's actually the highest number. So the highest number of decimal places to the right. So here I have 1, 2. Here I have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So I know that the highest I have is 2, which means I need to multiply this equation by 100 to get rid of the decimals. By doing that, I end up getting here, I have 65x minus 12 equals negative 31x, and I have plus 4. And now it's just an easy equation that we had before. Again, 65 is higher, so I'm going to keep that over there, and I'm going to move this 12 away. So I'm going to add 12, I'm going to add 12. Notice how I always pair my like terms together. So we've got 65x is the only thing left here, minus 31x plus 16. Well, now I need to get rid of a negative 31, so hopefully we realize the opposite is to add 31. So add 31x, and I end up with 96x equals 16. Now here, if you don't know what happens here, then don't be afraid to divide and use your calculator. So I get x equals, well, I don't know what that is, so I'm going to turn on my calculator, and I'm going to type in 16 divided by 96. Well, that gives me a decimal. I want to know if that's actually a fraction, though. So if you hit math, the first option says frac. That means fraction. Hit enter and enter again, and it will spit out the fraction for you. So I know that this is actually 1/6. And again, you can go back and put this into the original and check with your calculator to see that it's correct. Alright, so now those are 3 examples. You should go ahead and try the ones in your summer mastery packet to make sure that you can do them before you get quizzed on them in the fall.